Hey class, today we're going to talk about how to read a tape measure, and there are many reasons why you want to learn how to read one of these. Some of them could be that eventually one day you're going to need to know if something's going to fit in your car, in your locker, in your dorm, in your bedroom, or in your house, and you don't want to get something that's not going to fit, or if you're buying materials, you don't want to buy too much or too little. So what we're going to talk about is the little tick marks on tape measures. Some of them tell you exactly what they are, some of them don't. So we are going to make it so that you understand what every little tick mark means. What we're going to focus on today is the area within the inches. So in this tape measure, you notice that we have our little increments here, but they don't have any information on there. So you want to know exactly what do those little tick marks mean, and that's what we're going to focus on. So here we have a zoomed up version of our inch. There's one thing that I really want you to take away from this, and that is that we are dealing with a fraction, and that fraction will always have an odd numerator, that's the number on top, and an even denominator. So let's start to break up our inch into the different increments. The very first increment that we're going to break it is down the middle, right in half. Now if you notice, the half is an odd numerator with an even denominator. So that's our very first increment. From there, we're going to continue to break everything down by half and by half and by half. So let's go ahead and do that. Half of half is going to be 1/4. That's your half mark there. Notice, odd numerator, even denominator. Let's go further. Let's break that one in half. And we have 1/8. And now let's break that in half. And we have 1/16. So our increments were always even. We have a 2, a 4, an 8, a 16th, and notice that they double. So you can have your next increment, if your tape measure had it, would be a 32nd, and then a 64th if you have a really fancy tape measure. Most tape measures are going to have these increments here. Now let's look at the numerator, the top part. It's always going to be odd. So if you start counting from 1, your next number is going to be a 3, and then a 5, and then a 7, 9, 11, 13, and so on. So let's go back to half. Here we have 1/2. We would never say we have 2 halves because that's a whole, right? So we have 1/2. Now let's look at our quarters. We have 1/4. Next, we're going to have 3/4. We would never say we have 2/4 because that's half. So 1/4, 3/4. Now let's look at our eighths. Same thing. We're only going to count in odd numbers. So we have 1/8, 3/8, 5/8, and 7/8. Let's go on to our sixteenths. Same thing. 1/16, 3/16, 5/16, 7/16, 9/16, 11/16, 13/16, and 15/16. Now it takes a little bit of practice to remember to count in that way, but this is a good way, a good rule of thumb when you're dealing with a tape measure that doesn't have all of the markings on it. Another thing I want you to notice is that most tape measures are going to have other types of markings. The most common one is that our incremental lines are going to be different. So here at the inch mark, we have an entire line that goes from top to bottom. And then when we break that down in half, our line gets a little smaller. And then when we break that in half, it gets a little bit smaller. Down to the 1/8, a little smaller. And then 1/16 even smaller. And then, like I said, if you have a 32nd or 64, it gets even smaller. Those are very rare and very expensive tape measures. So there you have it. There is the basic breakup of the inch within a tape measure. So what I want you to do is I want you to measure some of the objects that I have laid out on our table with the tape measure, and I want you to write down what size they are down to the smallest increment. All right, I'm gonna demonstrate on this little Buc-ee's mint here. So I'm gonna place my tape measure at the end, hold it nice and tight, And from the looks of it, it's going to be on that quarter mark. So here I have an item that is 3 3/4 inches. So here we have our little quarter marking. So our first quarter, our second quarter, which is a half, right? And then our third quarter. So 3 3/4 inches. So go ahead and measure your objects and write down all of your measurements.